everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this charming little church from scrap wood. I initially created it as an Easter decoration, but based on the feedback I got online, this would be a great craft to sell as it transitions well into other holidays or events like showers or weddings. Also, the supplies are minimal, and if you made them in batches, it would save time. So if you're interested in learning how to build this church, stay with me and I'll walk you through each step. I started off by creating the stained glass windows as they need time to dry. To do this, I taped a small section of parchment paper on my table and spread a generous amount of clear drying wood glue using a brush. Elmer's would probably work as well. You could use Titebond, but it dries to a tan color, so keep that in mind, although that might give a nice rustic effect too. Next, I cut tiny rectangular shapes from several pieces of colorful tissue paper and scattered them in a random pattern. This is a perfect way to use crinkled tissue paper that doesn't look nice enough to add to a gift bag. You might also use glue and drops of paint swirled together. I think I'm going to try that if I make more churches in the future. After you have the glue covered to your liking, put another piece of parchment paper on top, sandwich it in between two books, and set it aside to dry. Then I brought in scrap wood pieces from my outdoor shop and compared what I had available to my Pinterest inspiration piece. I chose 3/4 inch thick oak and pine planks. Even though my pine had screw holes and a knot, I knew I could work around it. I'm going to begin by showing you the steeple section and entrance, and you'll notice in the following footage I overcut my boards a bit as I was figuring out my proportions, but for clarification purposes, I'll only relay my final measurements. That said, you will need a board around 4.5 inches wide and 18 inches in overall length. I cut the steeple section at 11 inches first, keeping in mind the flaws will be covered up by the entrance. Then I took the board over to my miter saw and cut a 45-degree roof line with the aid of my square. I had to take a half of a blade's width off one side until it was perfect. Using that piece as a template, I repeated the 45-degree roof line in the leftover board before eventually trimming it to 6.5 inches. Next, I took a look at the section that will be my sanctuary. You will make your life much easier if you just start off with a board that is around 8.5 to 9 inches wide, but since I didn't have that, I took 2 oak boards and attached them with a biscuit and wood glue until they equaled 8 5/8 inches in overall width. Once dry, I cut it to 10 inches in height and then repeated the 45-degree angles at the roof line. Then I created the steps with this nice 1/2 inch plywood. The top step is 5.5 inches wide and the bottom is 6.5 inches wide. I will include a complete cut list in the description for your reference. I attached these pieces together using wood and pin nails and purposely shot them where they won't show. Then I attached the steeple and entrance together using the same method. Utilizing the steps as a temporary spacer, I centered the sanctuary section and secured it through the back with pin nails. I initially pictured this church as pure white, but had this heirloom white on hand too, and kind of liked it a little bit better, so I took it outside and gave it a couple coats. As you can see, there's a scrap piece propping it up in front, as the steps will remain their natural color. Once dry, I brought it back inside and attached the step portion with wood glue and pin nails. Now for the fun part, figuring out the details. I carefully peeled my stainless glass section from the parchment paper and laid out my windows, choosing from this packet I got on Amazon. I will link this in the description in case you want to buy it too. For some reason, it didn't include doors, so I stacked 2 windows and cut the top section off a circular window to create one. Once I was happy with the layout, I set everything aside and attached the roof. I used the same plywood as the steps and cut it into 1-inch wide sections. You can add yours however you'd like, but I made mine flush with the back of each section, so there's an overhang on the front. I cut the tops at a 45-degree angle with the ends overhanging by a 1/2 inch. Again, I will list the lengths in the description so you can reference them later. To attach the details, I used both wood glue and hot glue. I started with the cross, which was taken from a keychain my son got at youth group, but I found them online and will attach a link. For the stained glass door and windows, I traced the outlines and carefully cut the section slightly smaller so it doesn't stick out beyond the boundaries. Then applied the same clear glue to the backs with a brush, then placed them and used hot glue on the wooden parts. For the side windows, I came up 5 inches from the bottom and used painter's tape as a guide so each side would match. And last, but certainly not least, I touched up the cross with my paint markers to dial down the redness of the stain. And here is a look at the finished product. I absolutely love how this turned out and would like to make several more in varying dimensions and materials. Although I made this as an Easter decoration, I could see this being used all year long or as a centerpiece for showers and weddings. Let me know in the comments if you plan to make this for yourself, and also what price you would place on these if you plan to sell them. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and found it helpful. If I create more, I'll add other how-to videos, so make sure you subscribe so you won't miss those, as well as my upcoming Christmas countdown. You can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, so look me up there as well. As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, take care.